approaching the final chapters. Before we do that, here is chapters 24 to 28. Let's begin with chapter 24, The Quiet Reckoning, Requiem, Threads, Harvest, and Eclipsed Doubts, and Unbroken Promise. I'm your host, Sydney Brown, episode 6. Welcome back to Unbroken Voices. I'm Sydney Brown, and today we move deeper into Unbroken Promise with chapters 24 through 28. These pages take us from the quiet reckoning after public criticism through a requiem that transforms sorrow into shared song, into the gentle threads of tomorrow woven in a forest cabin, the harvest of hope planted in community hearts. And finally, the eclipsed doubts that test love's light in the darkest hour. It's where the artist learns that every storm, every shadow, and every shared brushstroke is part of the promise. We'll read longer passages straight from the book so you can feel every layer, every tremor, every dawn breaking through. If you're carrying doubt or tending your own harvest right now, these chapters were written for exactly this moment in your life. Chapter 24, The Quiet Reckoning. When the world accuses you of turning pain into spectacle. The gallery's hush shattered when Rowan Blackwood, a celebrated contemporary, stepped into the lectern and alleged my work was trafficked in trauma for applause. His words cut through the air like shards of glass, an accusation that I had turned my grief into a commodity, sold heartbreak as spectacle. The audience shifted uneasily. Some faces hardened, others glanced away in discomfort. In that moment, I felt each brushstroke I had laid bare become a weapon aimed at my own heart. Back in my studio, the accusation echoed between blank canvases like a relentless drum. I stared at Open Vessel, its golden fragments shimmering with my confessions, and wondered if confession had become exhibitionism. The familiar itch of retreat crept up my spine, urging me to pack away pigments, lock the loft door, and vanish behind gray walls. But the idea of silence wanted to erase every story I had dared to tell. I trembled, torn between self-preservation and the compulsion to create. By week's end, whispers rippled through social circles. Was Elias Moreau's vulnerability authentic or a calculated stroke? Invitations to speak at panel discussions vanished. Gallery owners who once clamored for my pieces now offered polite refusals. Emails rolled in, some of condemnation, others of sympathy, each one a reminder that public opinion is as fickle as wind-blown dust. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window and watched the city breathe, uncertain whether I deserved defense or condemnation. On the brink of shutting my easel for good, I found Isabel waiting outside my door with 2 steaming cups of tea. She placed one in my hand without a word, her calm presence an anchor amid the storm. "They're unsettled by honesty," she said softly, voice steady as sunlight through clouds. "But your truth is not a transaction. It is a lifeline for those who still whisper in the dark." In her eyes, I saw conviction stronger than any critique. Together, we mapped a response untainted by defensiveness. Instead of rebuttals, we organized a live dialogue at the community center, an open forum where survivors, skeptics, and artists could share unfiltered stories. When the night came, voices rose in unison, weaving empathy through debate, transforming accusation into understanding. My heart pounded, but each question answered felt like a healed brushstroke across a gaping canvas. That evening, I returned to my loft and dipped my brush into a palette of deep indigo and soft amber. On a fresh canvas, I painted a single figure standing at the edge of a storm, holding a lantern that trembled yet refused to dim. As I worked, I realized that reckoning is not just about answering criticisms, it is about fortifying the light within. And in that quiet storm, I rediscovered a simple truth. Vulnerability is both my reckoning and my redemption. That lantern, trembling, yet refusing to dim, that single image stayed with me long after writing it. Public criticism can feel like the final eclipse, but Isabel's presence and the community dialogue remind us that our truth isn't a transaction, it's a lifeline. If you've ever been accused of making your pain too public, this chapter whispers, keep holding the lantern. The light you carry is exactly what the world needs. Chapter 25, Requiem for Sorrow. When grief is given its own sacred performance. The performance space pulsed with hushed anticipation as I dimmed the gallery lights and activated the projectors. Blank canvases along the far wall sprang to life, each one illuminated by fleeting lines from my journal, snatches of fear, fragments of regret, confessions scrawled in midnight ink. The hush deepened into a collective breath, as though every visitor leaned in to hear the echoes of my own heart. Tonight, sorrow would not be hidden behind frames. It would fill the room, unfiltered and alive. A low hum rose when my voice crackled through the speakers, reading passages that once anchored me in isolation. Words about abandonment, the nights I trembled beneath hospital lamps, the secret tongue of tears I had painted onto every canvas. As each entry dissolved into light and shadow, faces glistened with recognition. Strangers wiping cheeks, partners tightening their grip. Vulnerability became a conduit, channeling grief into something shared, something we all carry. Isabel's poetry wove between my readings like gentle currents. Together, our words formed a requiem. Grief transformed into a hymn that trembled on the edge of beauty. Midway through the final piece, I noticed Rowan Blackwood at the back of the hall. When the projectors fell silent, he stepped forward and unfolded a note, an apology for his earlier indictment, an admission that he had misunderstood the courage it takes to expose one's scars. In that moment, I felt the weight of old judgments dissolve in the wake of shared honesty. Later, alone in my loft, I opened my journal and wrote, "Sorrow deserves its own requiem, a space where pain and grace dance beneath the same light." I closed the book and pressed my hand over my heart, feeling its steady beat as proof that vulnerability had become my greatest chorus. And as dawn crept across the skyline, I knew this performance was both an ending and a new beginning. A requiem for sorrow, not to bury it, but to let it sing. This chapter taught me that when we give our pain a stage, when we let others witness it, something sacred happens. The grief doesn't disappear, but it becomes a bridge. If sorrow has felt too heavy to voice alone, perhaps it's time to dim the lights and let it be heard. Chapter 26, Threads of Tomorrow, weaving a shared future in the quiet of the pines. The morning after the Requiem performance felt almost sacred in its silence. Isabel and I met at our favorite cafe before sunrise, mapping a retreat deep in the pines outside town. When we arrived at the cabin, sunlight sifted through towering evergreens, painting the clearing in emerald and gold. We structured our days without clock or calendar. Each dawn began with drawing. In the spaces between our disciplines, a new language emerged, a tapestry of image and verse that felt bigger than either of us alone. On the third morning, fog curled over the lake like smoke. I painted 2 trees entwined at the water's edge, roots interlacing beneath the surface, branches arcing skyward. At my side, Isabel drafted a poem of entwined destinies. In quiet confluence, roots learn to trust the deep soil, tendrils of promise. That afternoon, we combined our pieces, her verse written in pale gold alongside my painted roots. We talked of future projects, a traveling exhibition of paired poems and paintings, workshops guiding others to weave their threads of tomorrow. Each idea felt effortless and inevitable, like 2 rivers converging. That night, we sat by a crackling fire pit, under a tapestry of stars. In my journal I wrote, "Together we become the loom on which tomorrow's threads are spun." And as embers softened into ash, I understood that our shared vision was no longer a plan, but a living, breathing promise. Threads of tomorrow, not forced, but woven gently beside someone who sees you. This chapter is a love letter to the quiet days when 2 people stop performing and simply create side by side. If you've been dreaming of a future that feels shared, these pages show how the loom is already in your hands. Chapter 27, The Harvest of Hope, Planting Possibility in Community Soil. The auditorium buzzed with restless energy as we rolled roots and wings into place at the Detroit Community Arts Center. By mid-morning, we launched our first workshop, a cohort of teens from neighborhood shelters. A boy named Tariq painted a single sunflower, breaking through cracked pavement, and wrote "Resilience" in bold charcoal letters. Later, we visited a local high school art class where anxiety had silenced so many pencils and voices. In the afternoon, community leaders gathered around a blank wall. Hands of all ages rose in turn, each mark mingling with the next, until a sprawling mosaic of color emerged. That evening, as we packed up our brushes, a counselor handed me a stack of letters. Isabel and I read them aloud under the warm glow of overhead lights, tears mingling with laughter. In those pages, I saw the true harvest of our journey, not the acclaim or the critics' praise, but the lives touched and spirits reclaimed. Back at our loft, I opened my journal and wrote, "Hope is the greatest gift we can pass on. It sprouts in the hearts we dare to tend." I underlined the line twice. I knew that this was only the beginning of our shared mission, to cultivate grace and resilience, one brush stroke at a time. The harvest of hope. It doesn't come from grand stages alone. It comes from sunflower paintings, in cracked pavement, and pink strokes in a gray sky. This chapter reminded me that every small act of creation we offer others becomes seed for their tomorrow. If you've ever wondered if your story matters, this is your proof. It already is someone's harvest. Chapter 28, Eclipsed Doubts. When love's light is tested by sudden shadow. My dawn was shattered by the urgent ring of the phone. Isabel's voice trembled as she told me she had collapsed at home. Fear cracked me open in ways no canvas ever had. The waiting room chairs felt rigid beneath me. Every heartbeat in my chest sounded too loud. I found a corner and pulled out my sketchbook, scrawling jagged lines of ash gray and blood red, translating my terror into immediate form. When the cardiologist emerged, relief washed over me in waves, but beneath it lay a tremor of guilt. In the antiseptic glow of that corridor, I vowed to honor her fragility as fiercely as I revered her strength. That night, back in the solitude of my loft, I set up a trio of canvases. I titled the series Eclipsed, each panel capturing a moment when light and shadow collide. My brush trembled with both grief and devotion as I layered pigment, fear bleeding into faith, doubt yielding to unwavering hope. When Isabel returned home, exhausted but assured, we unveiled the Eclipsed series. The panels glowed in the warm lamplight. "You've captured the very pulse of uncertainty," someone whispered, "and the courage it takes to let the light win." Isabel squeezed my hand, her smile both fragile and fierce, and I understood that our shared fear had forged a new level of intimacy. Before sleep claimed me, I opened my journal and wrote, "In the shadow of doubt, we discover where faith must shine brightest. Love does not banish fear. It becomes its guiding light." Eclipsed doubts. When the phone rings at dawn and fear eclipses everything, that's when love proves it was never just light. It was the courage to hold the lantern steady through the dark. This chapter is for every heart that has ever whispered, "What if I lose you?" The answer, the book shows us, is to keep painting anyway. Unbroken Promise is available on Amazon, Kindle, free with unlimited, or paperback. Let these chapters meet you right where you are. You can listen to me on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, audio only, Podbean, Spotify, and Amazon Music/Audible. Search Unbroken Voices, or follow at Unbroken Promise 2 for every new episode and direct links. Share on X at Unbroken Promise 2 which moment from these chapters stayed with you most. Your stories keep this conversation alive. Thanks for walking these reckoning, Requiem, and Harvest pages with me. Next time we'll reach the unbroken chorus and the final promise. Your doubts, your storms, your shared threads, they're all becoming light. Keep painting the promise. I'm Sydney Brown. Take care of your brave, beautiful heart.